I sat alone in my cap and gown in an empty auditorium row, watching hundreds of other graduates celebrate with their families after receiving my master's degree in engineering. My parents, siblings, aunts, uncles, all 73 people who promised to attend, were instead at my younger sister Emma's last-minute bridal shower 3 states away. As I opened my diploma holder expecting just my degree, I found a mysterious sealed envelope with no university markings. My phone exploded with 77 missed calls from every family member. Something had gone terribly wrong back home. The morning had started like any other graduation day, except it felt more like a funeral. I straightened my cap one last time in the bathroom mirror of the university's engineering building, looking at a reflection that should have been filled with pride but instead showed nothing but hollow disappointment. My black graduation gown hung loosely on my shoulders, the gold honor cords feeling heavier than they should have. 5 years, 5 grueling years of sacrifice had led to this moment, and I was about to walk across that stage completely alone. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through the text messages one more time, hoping maybe I had misunderstood something. Mom. Sweetie, I'm so sorry, but Emma moved her bridal shower to today. It's the only day the venue had available. You understand, right, Dad? Son, well, make it up to you. Emma's getting married. This is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Uncle Pete, Hamilton, kiddo, we're all here for your sister. Family first. You know how it is. Family first. The words stung like a physical slap. Apparently, I wasn't family enough. I shoved the phone back into my pocket and made my way toward the auditorium. Students buzzed around me with excited energy, taking selfies with their families, hugging grandparents, crying happy tears with their parents. The contrast made my chest feel tight. Walking into the massive auditorium, I found my assigned seat in the sea of graduates. Around me, entire rows were filled with proud families, holding flowers, balloons, and homemade signs with names written in glitter. The Hendersons had brought what looked like 3 generations to watch their daughter graduate. The Patels had driven from California with a banner that read, "We're so proud of you, Rajesh." And then there was my row, empty chairs stretched in both directions like a wasteland. I thought about the phone call from my mother 3 days ago. Emma had apparently decided that the weekend of my graduation would be perfect for her bridal shower because everyone would already be thinking about family gatherings. The irony wasn't lost on me. My family was gathering, all right, just not for me. The ceremony began, and I watched as name after name was called. Each graduate walked across the stage to thunderous applause from their personal cheering sections. Cameras flashed, air horns blew. People shouted, "That's my baby," with unashamed pride. When they called Hamilton James Morrison, I stood up from my island of empty chairs and walked across that stage to the sound of polite, obligatory clapping from strangers. The dean handed me my diploma holder with a warm smile and a firm handshake, but even she seemed to notice the absence of any familiar faces in the crowd. Returning to my seat, I held the leather diploma holder in my hands. This represented 5 years of working 3 jobs while maintaining a 4.0 grade average. 5 years of sleeping 4 hours a night. 5 years of missing Christmas dinners, birthday parties, and family vacations because I was either studying, working, or too exhausted to function. I remembered last Thanksgiving when my cousin asked what I was studying, and before I could answer, my aunt jumped in with, "Oh, Hamilton's getting some engineering thing. We don't really understand it. But he's always been the smart one." The smart one, like it was a personality quirk rather than years of dedicated effort. I thought about the time my father needed help fixing the family business computer system, and I spent an entire weekend rebuilding their network infrastructure for free. When the business started making 20% more profit, thanks to the efficiency improvements, did they mention my contribution at the family dinner? No, but they spent an hour discussing Emma's new job at the department store. I opened the diploma holder, expecting to see just my degree certificate. Instead, there was something else. A crisp white envelope with my name written in professional lettering sat on top of my diploma. It wasn't university letterhead. It wasn't university anything. With shaking hands, I carefully opened the envelope and pulled out the letter inside. The header made my heart stop. NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory, Pasadena, California. Dear Mr. Morrison. The letter began. Congratulations. After extensive review of applications from engineers worldwide, you have been selected as one of 12 candidates for the Mars Exploration Rover Communications Array project. Your innovative research in satellite communication protocols and your outstanding academic record have impressed our selection committee beyond measure. I had to read the next line 3 times before it sank in. The position offers a starting annual salary of $250,000, comprehensive benefits, and the opportunity to work on humanity's most ambitious space exploration project to date. My hands were trembling so hard I could barely hold the paper steady. NASA, the Mars Rover project, $250,000 a year. This was beyond my wildest dreams. This was the kind of opportunity that came along once in a lifetime, if ever. Please call Dr. Sarah Chen at the number below to confirm your acceptance by Monday, May 15th. We look forward to welcoming you to the JPL family and making history together. I sat there, staring at the letter, surrounded by empty chairs, as the graduation ceremony continued around me. The bitter irony hit me like a truck. Here I was, achieving the greatest professional milestone of my life, receiving an offer that would change everything, and the people who should have been here to share it were busy fawning over party decorations and wedding planning 3 states away. That's when my phone started buzzing. And it didn't stop. The screen lit up with call after call. Mom, Dad, Emma, Uncle Pete, Aunt Sarah, my brother Jake, cousins I hadn't heard from in months. The missed call counter climbed, 20, 30, 40, 50. I let it ring, holding that NASA letter in my other hand, watching the number climb higher and higher. 77 missed calls and counting. Something had gone very wrong at Emma's bridal shower. By the time I finally answered my phone, the missed call counter had reached 77, and my voicemail was completely full. The phone rang twice before my father's voice came through, and I immediately knew something catastrophic had happened. Hamilton! Thank God! Where have you been? His voice was shaky, almost unrecognizable. My father, who had worked construction for 30 years and never showed emotion, sounded like he was crying. Dad? What's happening? I was at my graduation ceremony. I couldn't keep the edge out of my voice. Oh God, son, your graduation. I'm so sorry. We messed up so bad. Everything is falling apart here. What are you talking about? Where are you? We're at the police station in Dallas. Hamilton, Marcus has been arrested. Right here at the bridal shower. In front of everybody. They came in with handcuffs and everything. I felt the world tilt sideways. Marcus Webb, Emma's fiancé for the past 2 years. The guy my parents constantly held up as the perfect son-in-law. The successful attorney who drove a BMW and wore expensive suits. Arrested for what? Embezzlement. They're saying he stole $200,000 from his law firm's client trust fund. Hamilton. The whole thing was a lie. Everything about him was a lie. I could hear commotion in the background, voices talking over each other, someone crying loudly. My mother's voice cut through the noise, shouting, "How could we be so stupid?" Dad, slow down. Tell me exactly what happened. We were all there at the country club, 43 people from both sides of the family. Emma was opening gifts. Everyone was laughing and having a good time. Then these 2 FBI agents walked in with the local police. They asked if Marcus Webb was present, and when he stood up, they read him his rights right there in front of everyone. My father's voice broke completely. Hamilton. They said he doesn't even have a law degree. His whole life was fake. The job, the education, everything. He's been running cons across 3 states. Where's Emma? She's not good, son. She's been throwing up, crying, screaming. The whole wedding is canceled. We lost all the deposits, $15,000 down the drain. The whole family is humiliated. Channel 8 News showed up at the police station. Our neighbors are going to see this on television. I looked down at the NASA letter still clutched in my hand. $250,000 a year, and my family had just lost $15,000 they couldn't afford on a wedding to a criminal. Hamilton, can you come home? We need you. We always need you when things go bad, and this is the worst it's ever been. The familiar weight of family obligations settled on my shoulders like a lead blanket. They needed me. Again. Just like when the family business was failing and I spent my spring break rebuilding their computer systems. Just like when Uncle Pete got divorced and needed help moving. Just like when Grandma got sick and everyone expected me to figure out her Medicare paperwork because I was the smart one. But this time was different. This time, they had made a choice. They had chosen Emma's party over my graduation, and now Emma's perfect life had exploded spectacularly. Dad, I just graduated with my master's degree in engineering. I had nobody there, not one person from our family. The silence on the other end was deafening. Son, we are so sorry, we thought. We thought the bridal shower was more important because graduations happen all the time, but weddings. Graduations happen all the time? Dad, this was my master's degree. I've been working toward this for 5 years. You're right. We messed up. We messed up everything. Hamilton, please, can you just come home? We don't know what to do. I heard my mother's voice in the background, getting closer to the phone. Let me talk to him, Robert. Hamilton? Honey, it's Mom. I'm so sorry about your graduation. We should have been there. You're the most important thing in our lives, and we forgot that today. Mom. No, let me finish. We've been taking you for granted for years. You're always there when we need help. You never complain. You just fix everything for us. And today, when you needed us to be there for you, we let you down in the worst possible way. I could hear her crying now. In the background, Emma was sobbing loudly, and several relatives were talking at once in panicked voices. The reporters are asking questions about our family. Mom continued. They want to know how we didn't see this coming. Hamilton, Marcus has been in our house dozens of times. He ate Sunday dinner with us. He was supposed to be our son-in-law. How could we be such terrible judges of character? That was a good question. Marcus had always seemed too good to be true to me. Too smooth. Too polished. Too eager to impress everyone with stories about his law cases and his expensive lifestyle. But every time I had expressed even mild skepticism, my parents had shut me down. Hamilton's just jealous because Marcus is more successful. Emma had said 6 months ago when I questioned why Marcus never seemed to actually be at work during normal business hours. Don't be negative, son, Dad had told me. Marcus is a good man who makes your sister happy. Now, their good man was sitting in a jail cell, and their family was front-page news in the worst possible way. Mom, I need to think about this. This is a lot to process. Of course, honey. But please, just consider coming home. We need our family together right now. I hung up the phone and sat in the empty auditorium, holding my NASA letter in one hand and processing the complete implosion of my sister's life in my head. Around me, other families were finishing their graduation celebrations, taking pictures by the stage, making dinner plans to continue the festivities. My family was at a police station dealing with a fraud investigation. I looked at the letter again. Please call Dr. Sarah Chen to confirm your acceptance by Monday, May 15th. That was 3 days from now. 3 days to decide whether to take the opportunity of a lifetime or go home to clean up another family mess. But as I sat there, something else was bothering me. Something about Marcus and his presence in our family didn't add up. How had a career criminal ended up specifically targeting my sister? What had drawn him to our unremarkable middle-class family in suburban Texas? I was about to find out that the answer to that question would change everything. I drove the 6 hours back to Dallas through the night, my mind racing faster than my beat-up Honda Civic could carry me down Interstate 35. The NASA letter sat on my passenger seat like a ticking clock, reminding me that I had 72 hours to make the most important decision of my life. I arrived at my parents' house at 3 in the morning to find every light on and half the extended family camped out in the living room. My mother rushed to hug me the moment I walked through the door. "Thank you for coming home," she whispered. "I know we don't deserve it." Emma was curled up on the couch, still wearing her bridal shower dress, her makeup smeared and her eyes red from crying. She looked up when she saw me, and her face crumpled all over again. "Hamilton, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry about your graduation. I'm sorry about Marcus. I'm sorry about everything. I sat down next to her. Are you okay? I mean, physically. I keep throwing up. I can't stop shaking. I feel so stupid. Everyone warned me that he seemed too perfect, but I didn't want to listen. Who warned you? You did. Jake did. Even some of my friends said he seemed fake, but he was so charming and he made me feel special and he kept talking about our future together. My father appeared from the kitchen, looking like he had aged 5 years in one day. Son, the FBI wants to talk to all of us tomorrow morning. They said Marcus had been planning this for months. Planning what? Exactly. Dad sat down heavily in his recliner. They found a laptop in his apartment with files about our whole family. Not just Emma. All of us. He had been researching us, taking pictures, copying information. A cold dread started forming in my stomach. What kind of information? They didn't give us all the details yet, but they mentioned something about your college work. Hamilton. They think he was specifically targeting our family to get close to you. The room went silent, except for the sound of Emma's quiet crying. To get close to me? Why would he care about me? They found stolen documents on his computer. NASA documents. Research papers with your name on them. The FBI agent said Marcus was part of some kind of industrial espionage ring. I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. Industrial espionage. My Uncle Pete, who had been quiet in the corner, finally spoke up. Hamilton, do you remember that time last month when Marcus offered to help you with your computer? Said it was running slow. I remembered. Marcus had volunteered to tune up my laptop while I was helping my mother in the garden. He had it for about 2 hours, claiming he was defragmenting the hard drive and clearing out viruses. He copied everything, I said, the realization hitting me like a freight train. My research, my thesis, my NASA application materials. The FBI agent said they found detailed plans to sell your work to foreign competitors. Dad continued. Marcus wasn't just stealing money from his law firm's clients. He was stealing intellectual property and selling it overseas. Emma looked up from the couch, horror dawning on her face. He never cared about me at all. I was just a way to get to Hamilton. The weight of it all started to sink in. Marcus had spent 2 years dating my sister, coming to family dinners, gaining our trust, all to steal my life's work. He had manipulated Emma's emotions, taken advantage of my parents' desire to see their daughter happy, and nearly destroyed my career before it even started. There's more, Mom said quietly from the kitchen doorway. The FBI said Marcus has done this before. 7 different aliases, 12 different victims across 5 states. He specifically targets families with members working in high-tech or defense industries. How did he find us? Your academic papers are published online, Dad said. The agent said Marcus probably searched for graduating engineering students with high security clearance potential, then researched their families to find the best way to get close to them. I thought about all the times Marcus had asked seemingly innocent questions about my work. What exactly are you studying? Are you working on anything interesting? Have you heard back from any job applications? He had been mining information from me for 2 years, and I had been too focused on my studies to notice. My brother Jake came downstairs, looking exhausted. The whole neighborhood knows, he said. It's all over Facebook. Local man arrested at bridal shower for fraud. Emma's friends are texting her nonstop. What about the wedding? I asked. Cancelled. Emma said. Everything. The church, the reception, the caterer. We're out $15,000 in deposits, but that's the least of our problems now. How am I supposed to face anyone at work? How are Mom and Dad supposed to show their faces at church? The family had been completely humiliated, financially damaged, and emotionally devastated. But as I sat there looking at my NASA letter, I realized something else. I had been targeted specifically because of my potential value to foreign intelligence services. Marcus hadn't just stumbled upon our family. He had hunted us. My phone rang. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize. Mr. Morrison? This is Agent Patricia Williams with the FBI. I understand you're back in town. We need to speak with you first thing tomorrow morning. There are some things about this case you need to know immediately. What kind of things? things that could affect your security clearance and your career prospects. Can you be at our Dallas office at 8 a.m.? I looked around at my devastated family and then down at my NASA letter. I'll be there. After I hung up, the room stayed quiet for a long time. Finally, Emma spoke up. Hamilton, what was in that envelope you found at graduation? You never told us. I pulled out the NASA letter and handed it to her. She read it, and her eyes went wide. $250,000? Hamilton, this is incredible. This is the opportunity of a lifetime. She passed the letter to our parents, and their faces showed a mixture of pride and shame. Son, Dad said quietly, this is what you were meant to do, and we almost missed it completely. When do you have to respond? Mom asked. Monday, 2 days from now. You have to take it, Emma said firmly. Promise me you'll take it, no matter what happens with all this Marcus stuff. I looked at my sister, who had just seen her entire future collapse in front of 43 family members, and she was worried about my career prospects. Emma, promise me, Hamilton, I've ruined enough lives this week. I'm not going to ruin yours, too. But as I sat there holding that letter, I realized that Marcus' plan might have succeeded more than any of us knew. If he had stolen my research and sold it to foreign competitors, my NASA security clearance could be in serious jeopardy. The biggest opportunity of my life might already be slipping through my fingers. The FBI field office in downtown Dallas felt like stepping into a different world. Agent Patricia Williams was a sharp woman in her 40s who got straight to the point the moment I sat down in the sterile conference room. Mr. Morrison, Marcus Webb isn't his real name. His actual name is Martin Wesley, and he's been running sophisticated cons for 8 years. But what makes this case unusual is the level of research he did on your family. She slid a thick folder across the table. These are copies of files we found on his computer. Take a look. I opened the folder and felt sick. There were dozens of photographs of our family gatherings, screenshots of my social media accounts, copies of my academic papers, and even blueprints of our house layout. But the most disturbing part was a detailed psychological profile of each family member. Hamilton, the achiever, carries family burdens. Isolated by his intelligence, least likely to question romantic relationships that don't directly involve him. Emma, insecure about academic success, desires status and validation, most susceptible to flattery and material displays of affection. Respect authority figures. Will trust anyone who appears professionally successful. Jake, cynical teenager. Potential threat to operation. Monitor closely. Agent Williams watched my face as I read. He knew exactly how to manipulate each member of your family. But here's what's interesting. According to his notes, the original plan was just to steal your research and disappear. The engagement to your sister was supposed to last 3 months maximum. What changed? Your research was apparently more valuable than he initially thought. His contacts overseas were willing to pay significantly more for long-term access to your work, so he decided to stay and milk the situation. I flipped to the next page and found detailed plans for stealing my NASA application materials and selling them to competitors. There were email chains discussing my potential security clearance and which foreign governments would pay the most for early access to Mars mission technology. Agent Williams, how much of my work did he actually steal? All of it. Your entire thesis, your research notes, your correspondence with NASA, even your personal emails discussing the application process. We found evidence that he had already sold preliminary information to a technology broker who works with Chinese and Russian clients. My career was over before it had started. No way NASA would give security clearance to someone whose work had been compromised by foreign intelligence. However, Agent Williams continued, this is where the situation gets interesting. The technology broker never received the final materials because Marcus got greedy and tried to renegotiate the price. There's no evidence that any sensitive information actually reached foreign hands. A small spark of hope flickered in my chest. We're going to need your cooperation to trace the full extent of his network and recover any stolen materials. Are you willing to work with us? What would that involve? Technical analysis of the stolen files, helping us understand which information is most sensitive, possibly testifying against the other members of his network. It would be a significant time commitment, but it would also demonstrate your integrity and patriotism to NASA's Security Review Board. I thought about my family sitting at home, devastated and humiliated. I thought about Emma's canceled wedding and my parents' financial losses. I thought about my NASA opportunity hanging in the balance. "I'll do whatever you need." When I got back to my parents' house that evening, I found the entire family gathered in the living room again. But this time, something was different. Jake was pacing around angrily, and my parents looked more upset than I had ever seen them. "What's going on now?" Jake turned to face me, his 17-year-old face red with anger. "I tried to warn everybody about Marcus months ago, and nobody listened to me because I'm just the stupid kid in the family." "What do you mean you tried to warn them?" "I saw him taking pictures of your stuff, Hamilton, last Christmas when you went to help Mom in the kitchen. I caught him photographing the papers on your desk with his phone." The room went completely silent. "I told Mom and Dad that night, and they said I was being paranoid. Mom said I was jealous because Marcus was successful and I should focus on my own grades instead of making up stories." I looked at my parents, and the shame on their faces was unmistakable. "Jake," Dad said quietly, "we owe you an apology. You owe Hamilton more than an apology." Jake shot back. "You always act like he's this genius who doesn't need emotional support like the rest of us. Like his feelings don't matter because he's smart enough to handle everything by himself." Mom started crying again. "Jake, that's not true." "It is true. When Marcus started dating Emma, you guys treated him like he was the son you always wanted instead of the son you already had. Hamilton worked 3 jobs to pay for college, and you guys acted like that was just normal because he's the smart one. Emma gets engaged to some guy she's known for 2 years, and you throw a party. Hamilton gets a master's degree, and you skip his graduation for a bridal shower." Jake's words hit the room like bombs. No one knew what to say. "And now Hamilton probably has some amazing job opportunity that he's not even telling us about because he knows you guys will find a way to make it about Emma's problems instead." I pulled out the NASA letter and handed it to Jake. He read it, and his anger turned to amazement. "Dude, this is insane. This is like astronaut-level stuff." "It's the Mars rover project," I said. "I have until Monday to accept." Jake looked around the room at our parents and Emma. "Please tell me you're not thinking about turning this down to stay here and fix Emma's mess." The question hung in the air like a sword. Dad cleared his throat. "Son, that decision is completely yours. We've interfered with your life enough." "Actually," Mom said, standing up straighter, "we need to tell you something else. We've been borrowing money for months to pay for Emma's wedding. We took out a second mortgage on the house. The hits just kept coming." "How much money?" $30,000. "We thought Marcus' family was going to pay for half the wedding, but it turns out his family doesn't exist either. We're stuck with the entire debt." Emma looked mortified. "Mom, Dad, I told you the wedding didn't have to be so expensive. We wanted to give you the perfect day," Dad said. "We wanted you to have everything Hamilton never asked for." There it was, the truth finally out in the open. My parents had gone into debt trying to give Emma the kind of celebration they had never thought to give me. Hamilton. Mom said, "We've spent years taking advantage of your independence and your willingness to solve problems for everyone else. We convinced ourselves that you didn't need the same kind of support we gave Emma because you were so capable. But that wasn't fair to you. We made you feel like your accomplishments didn't matter," Dad added. "And now we've put you in a position where you might feel obligated to stay and help us instead of pursuing your dreams." Jake sat down next to me. "Hamilton, if you don't take that NASA job, I will never forgive you. And I will never forgive them either." Emma, who had been quiet during Jake's entire outburst, finally spoke up. "Hamilton, I've been thinking about what Marcus said to me the night he proposed. He said he was excited to be part of a family with someone as brilliant as you. At the time, I thought he was just being nice. Now I realize he was already planning to exploit your work." She stood up and walked over to me. "I spent 2 years being jealous of your success instead of being proud of my brother. I chose a man who saw your intelligence as something to steal instead of something to admire. I'm going to have to live with that for the rest of my life." Emma. No, let me finish. You have an opportunity to work on Mars exploration. Mars, Hamilton. You're going to help humanity reach another planet. And I almost cost you that chance because I was too insecure to see what was happening right in front of me. The room felt heavy, with years of unspoken family dynamics finally coming to light. There's something else, Jake said. Hamilton, do you remember when you fixed the computer system at Dad's construction company? The business started making way more money after that. Right. Dad nodded. About 20% more profit. Did you ever thank Hamilton for that? Did you ever offer to pay him for the work? Silence. And when Hamilton tutored me in math for 2 years so I could pass algebra, did you guys ever acknowledge that he was the reason I graduated high school on time? More silence. Hamilton has been carrying this family for years, and we've been treating him like his contributions were just expected because he's smart. I looked around at my family, seeing them clearly for perhaps the first time. They weren't bad people, but they had fallen into a pattern of taking me for granted while prioritizing Emma's more obvious emotional needs. The truth is, I said quietly, I was going to turn down the NASA job. Everyone started talking at once, but I held up my hand. I was going to stay and help clean up this mess because that's what I always do. I fix things for this family, even when it costs me opportunities. Hamilton, no, Emma said. But sitting here listening to all of you finally acknowledge what's been happening for years, I realize something. If I stay and fix this, nothing will change. You'll all go back to the same patterns, and I'll go back to being the family problem solver instead of living my own life. So, what are you going to do? Mom asked. I'm going to help the FBI catch the rest of Marcus' network, and then I'm moving to California to work on Mars exploration. The room erupted in smiles and hugs, but I wasn't done. However, there's a condition. This family is going to change. Jake gets the support and recognition he deserves for being smart and insightful. Emma gets help rebuilding her life without everyone treating her like she's fragile. And Mom and Dad, you're going to learn to appreciate what you have instead of always focusing on what's missing. Dad stood up and extended his hand for a handshake, then changed his mind and hugged me instead. Son, we're going to do better, all of us. But I had no idea that the FBI investigation was about to take a turn that would give our family the chance to prove it. 3 days later, I found myself sitting in a secure FBI conference room surrounded by computer screens, technical manuals, and Agent Williams' team of cybercrime specialists. The NASA deadline had been extended by 2 weeks after Agent Williams contacted Dr. Sarah Chen directly to explain the national security implications of my case. Mr. Morrison, Agent Williams said, spreading out a network diagram on the conference table. We've been investigating Marcus Associates for 6 months, but his encryption methods have been too sophisticated for us to crack. Your technical background might be exactly what we need to break this case wide open. I studied the diagram. It showed connections between Marcus and at least a dozen other individuals across multiple states, with lines indicating financial transactions, communication patterns, and suspected criminal activities. What exactly are you asking me to do? Marcus used a custom encryption algorithm to protect his communications with other members of the network. Our cryptography experts have been unable to decode his files, but according to his notes about you, he was impressed by your work on satellite communication protocols. He might have incorporated elements of your research into his own security systems. The irony was perfect. Marcus had stolen my work to protect his criminal network, and now my work might be the key to bringing him down. Can I see the encrypted files? Agent Williams nodded to one of her team members, who pulled up a screen full of seemingly random characters. But as I studied the patterns, something looked familiar. This isn't completely custom encryption, I said after 20 minutes of analysis. Hez using a modified version of my satellite security protocol, but Hez implemented it incorrectly. I spent the next 4 hours working with the FBI's computer specialists to reverse engineer Marcus encryption. By evening, we had successfully decoded the first batch of files. What we found was worse than anyone had expected. Jesus Christ, Agent Williams muttered as she read through the decoded messages. This isn't just industrial espionage. They're selling stolen technology to fund terrorist organizations overseas. The network included 12 active operatives working in Silicon Valley, Seattle, Boston, and Austin. They had stolen intellectual property from dozens of high-tech companies and defense contractors, generating millions of dollars in illegal revenue. Hamilton, Agent Williams said, "Your research wasn't just valuable because of its NASA applications. Your satellite communication work has direct military applications for drone warfare and missile guidance systems. Are you saying Marcus was planning to sell weapons technology to terrorists?" "That's exactly what I'm saying. And thanks to your help cracking his encryption, we now have evidence to arrest the entire network." Over the next week, I worked 18-hour days with the FBI team, analyzing stolen files, tracing financial transactions, and helping plan coordinated arrests across 5 states. It was the most intense and meaningful work I had ever done. The breakthrough came when I discovered that Marcus had been sloppy about deleting temporary files. His computer contained cached copies of emails discussing specific planned sales of stolen technology to overseas contacts. "Agent Williams, look at this," I said, pointing to a decoded message on my screen. They were planning to sell modified versions of my satellite protocols to North Korean agents next month. How much were they asking? $1.2 million for the complete technical package. Agent Williams stood up so fast she knocked over her coffee cup. "That's enough evidence for terrorism charges. Hamilton, you just helped us prevent a major national security breach." The coordinated arrests happened on a Thursday morning. FBI teams simultaneously raided locations in 5 cities, arresting 11 individuals and seizing computers, financial records, and stolen technology worth over $8 million. I watched the news coverage from the FBI field office, seeing Marcus' mugshot on CNN next to headlines about major industrial espionage ring broken up by FBI. The investigation was aided by the victim of the conspiracy, the news anchor reported. A recent engineering graduate whose stolen research helped authorities crack the network's encryption and prevent the sale of sensitive technology to foreign agents. My phone started buzzing with calls from reporters, but Agent Williams advised me not to speak to media until after the trials were complete. That evening, I drove home to find my entire extended family gathered in my parents' living room, watching the news coverage with expressions of amazement and pride. "Hamilton," my mother said as I walked in, "they're calling you a hero on television." Emma ran over and hugged me. "I can't believe my brother helped the FBI catch terrorists." "It wasn't terrorists exactly," I said. "Just criminals selling technology to people who might use it for terrorism. Same difference," Jake said from his position on the floor in front of the TV. "You're basically like a secret agent now." Uncle Pete, who had always treated me like just another nephew, stood up and shook my hand formally. "Hamilton, I owe you an apology. I never understood what you were studying or why it mattered. Now I see that you're doing work that protects our entire country." The local news was interviewing neighbors about our family. Mrs. Henderson from next door was telling a reporter, "I always knew that boy was special. His parents should be so proud." "We are proud," Dad said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "We should have been saying that all along." The next morning, Agent Williams called with more good news. "Hamilton, the recovered funds from Marcus Network exceeded our expectations. The FBI has a victim compensation program, and your family qualifies for a reward based on your cooperation and the amount of criminal proceeds we recovered." "How much of a reward?" $500,000. I had to sit down. "Also, Dr. Sarah Chen from NASA called me directly. She said your assistance with this investigation has impressed the Security Review Board beyond measure. They want to offer you a promotion before you even start." "What kind of promotion?" "Lead mission engineer for the Mars Communications Array project. It comes with a starting salary of $325,000 and immediate supervisory responsibility for a team of 8 engineers." I hung up the phone and walked into the living room where my family was having breakfast. Everyone looked up expectantly. "The FBI is giving us a $500,000 reward for helping with the investigation," I announced. The room erupted in cheers and disbelief. "And NASA wants to promote me to lead mission engineer before I even start the job." Emma started crying happy tears. Hamilton, this is incredible. You went from having nobody at your graduation to becoming a national hero in 2 weeks. Dad looked serious for a moment. Son, that reward money belongs to you. You earned it. Actually, Dad, I think the family should use it to pay off the house and start college funds for Jake and any other kids in the extended family who want to pursue engineering or science. Hamilton, no, Mom protested. You've done enough for this family. This isn't me doing something for the family, I said. This is the family investing in education and supporting each other's dreams. Jake's been accepted to the University of Texas engineering program, but he was planning to skip it because of the cost. Jake's face lit up. Hamilton, are you serious? Dead serious. And Emma, there's enough money for you to go back to school too, if you want. Emma had always wanted to study social work but had taken the department store job after high school because college seemed financially impossible. You would do that for me after everything that happened. Emma, you were a victim in this whole thing, not a villain. Marcus manipulated you specifically to get to me. The least I can do is help you build a real future instead of the fake one he sold you. That afternoon, I called Dr. Sarah Chen to accept NASA's offer. Dr. Chen, I want you to know that I'm grateful not just for the opportunity, but for the way NASA handled this security situation. You could have withdrawn the offer when you learned about the compromised research. Mr. Morrison, the way you responded to this crisis showed us everything we need to know about your character and your potential. We're lucky to have you on the team. As I hung up the phone, I realized that Marcus' attempt to destroy my career had actually elevated it beyond my wildest dreams. His betrayal of my family had forced us to confront years of unhealthy patterns and emerge stronger than we had ever been. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you turns out to be the best thing that could have happened. 6 months later, I stood in NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, looking through floor-to-ceiling windows at the clean room where the Mars rover was being assembled. My team of 8 brilliant engineers had just achieved a major breakthrough in long-range communication protocols that would allow real-time data transmission from Mars to Earth with 98% reliability. Hamilton, the preliminary tests are exceeding all expectations, said Dr. Jennifer Walsh, my deputy team leader. The communication array is going to revolutionize how we explore space. I still couldn't quite believe this was my life now. Lead mission engineer for humanity's most ambitious space exploration project, earning more money than my entire extended family had ever dreamed of, working with some of the smartest people on the planet. But the best part wasn't the professional success. It was the phone call I got every Sunday morning. Hamilton, it's Mom. How's Mars going this week? My mother had started learning about space exploration so she could understand my work. She subscribed to National Geographic and NASA's newsletter. She could now explain the Mars mission to her friends at church with genuine knowledge and enthusiasm. We had a breakthrough this week, Mom. The communication system is working even better than we hoped. That's wonderful, honey. Your father and I are so proud of you. Oh, and Emma has news too. Emma had enrolled in social work school using her share of the FBI reward money. She was thriving academically and had started dating a genuine social worker named David who worked with homeless veterans. No expensive cars, no flashy lifestyle, just a good man doing meaningful work. Hamilton, Emma's voice came through the phone. I got accepted for an internship with Child Protective Services. They said my experience with Marcus actually gives me insight into how predators operate. That's incredible, Emma. You're going to help a lot of families. I hope so. I want to turn the worst experience of my life into something useful for other people. Jake had started his sophomore year at UT Austin, majoring in aerospace engineering. His grades were outstanding, and he had already been accepted into a summer research program. Dude, Jake's voice joined the conference call. You're not going to believe this. I'm working on a project that could actually support your Mars mission. My professor said if the research goes well, NASA might be interested in my work. Jake, that's amazing. Maybe we'll end up working together someday. That would be so cool. Hey, did you see the article about you in Texas Monthly? The article had been published the week before, From Forgotten Graduate to NASA Hero, How One Family's Crisis Led to a National Security Victory. It told the complete story of Marcus Kahn, my FBI cooperation, and the ultimate recovery of millions in stolen technology. The whole town has been talking about it. Dad's voice added to the call. People keep stopping us at the grocery store to say how proud they must be of you. The local recognition had been overwhelming but genuine. The mayor had declared a Hamilton Morrison Day and asked me to speak at the high school graduation. 3 different universities had offered me honorary doctorate degrees. The town that had once seen me as just the smart Morrison kid now understood that intelligence applied with integrity could change the world. But the most meaningful recognition had come from an unexpected source. Hamilton. Mom said, "We got a letter from the FBI this week. Agent Williams wrote to thank our family for raising someone with the courage and skills to help protect the country." Agent Williams had stayed in touch throughout the trial proceedings. Marcus and 7 members of his network had been convicted on federal charges ranging from fraud to conspiracy to commit espionage. Marcus himself was serving 15 years in federal prison. She said in the letter that families like ours are what make America strong. Dad continued, people who support each other and do the right thing even when it's difficult. The FBI had also recovered an additional $3.2 million in stolen technology and criminal proceeds. 37 victims of the network had received compensation, and 6 major security vulnerabilities at defense contractors had been identified and corrected. Oh, and Hamilton. Emma said, Channel 8 wants to do a follow-up story on our family for the anniversary of Marcus' arrest. They want to show how we've all rebuilt our lives. The media attention had been strange but positive. Our family story had resonated with people because it showed that ordinary families could overcome extraordinary betrayal and emerge stronger. Are you comfortable with more media coverage? I asked. Actually, yes, Emma said. I think it might help other people who have been victims of cons or manipulation. If sharing our story prevents one other family from going through what we went through, it's worth it. That evening, I had dinner with my JPL team at a restaurant in Pasadena. We were celebrating the successful completion of Phase 2 testing for the Mars Communication Array. Hamilton, said Dr. Martin Rodriguez, our systems integration specialist. I have to ask, do you ever regret not having a normal family life? This job requires so much travel and such long hours. Actually, Dr. Rodriguez, this job gave me the family life I always wanted. My family and I understand each other now in a way we never did before. They support my dreams, and I support theirs. The distance doesn't matter when the connection is real. My phone buzzed with a text message from Jake. Dude, check your email. You're not going to believe this. I opened my email to find a message from Dr. Sarah Chen with the subject line, Mars Mission Update, Crew Selection. Hamilton, I wanted you to be among the first to know. NASA has approved the preliminary crew selection for the first manned Mars mission, planned for 2028. Based on your outstanding work on the communication systems and your security clearance level, you're being considered for the mission engineering team. Are you interested? I sat there staring at my phone screen, reading the message 3 times to make sure I understood it correctly. Hamilton, Dr. Walsh said, you look like you just saw a ghost. Not a ghost, I said, showing her the email. Mars. The entire table erupted in congratulations and excitement. As I drove home to my apartment that night, I thought about the contrast between this moment and that lonely graduation day 8 months ago. Then, I had been sitting in an empty auditorium, feeling forgotten and unvalued. Now, I was being considered for the most prestigious space mission in human history, surrounded by colleagues who respected my work, and supported by a family that finally understood my worth. Marcus had tried to steal my future and ended up giving me a better one than I had ever imagined possible. My phone rang as I pulled into my parking garage. It was a number I didn't recognize. Mr. Morrison, this is Principal Janet Carter from Eastwood High School in Dallas. I'm calling to ask if you might consider being our commencement speaker for this year's graduation ceremony. I would be honored, Principal Carter. Wonderful. You know, we've had requests from over 40 students and parents specifically asking for you to speak. Your story has inspired a lot of young people in our community to pursue careers in science and engineering. After we hung up, I sat in my car for a few minutes, thinking about what I would say to those graduating seniors. What lesson could I share from my experience? Then it came to me. Sometimes the people who believe in you least are the ones who need to lose you most in order to find themselves. And sometimes the greatest betrayal leads to the greatest triumph. If you have the courage to fight back and the wisdom to forgive. I was going to tell them about the importance of pursuing your dreams even when the people you love don't understand them. About the value of perseverance when everything seems to be going wrong. About the power of integrity when faced with corruption and betrayal. But mostly, I was going to tell them that being alone at your graduation doesn't mean you'll be alone in life. It just means you're strong enough to succeed without external validation and smart enough to build the support system you deserve. 2 years later, I stood on the stage at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, wearing a NASA flight suit with the Mars mission patch on my shoulder. Behind me was a scale model of the spacecraft that would carry the first human crew to Mars in 2028. And I was one of 6 engineers selected for that historic mission. The audience included over 2,000 people. NASA officials, members of Congress, International Space Agency representatives, and journalists from around the world. But the only faces I cared about were in the front row. My entire family had flown to Florida for the official mission announcement. Mom and Dad sat holding hands, both wearing Mars Mission family t-shirts that Jake had made for the occasion. Emma sat next to her husband David, their 6-month-old daughter sleeping peacefully in Emma's arms. Jake, now a senior at UT Austin, was wearing his NASA internship badge with obvious pride. Ladies and gentlemen, NASA Administrator Dr. Patricia Hernandez said into the microphone, I'm honored to introduce the engineering team leader for the Mars 2028 mission, Dr. Hamilton Morrison. I had earned my doctorate in aerospace engineering through NASA's accelerated program while working full-time on the Mars project. The title still felt surreal. Dr. Morrison's innovative work on interplanetary communication systems has made this mission possible. Dr. Hernandez continued, but beyond his technical contributions, Hamilton represents the values we need for space exploration: integrity, perseverance, and the ability to turn adversity into opportunity. As I stepped up to the podium, I looked out at the crowd and then back at my family. Emma was crying happy tears, and Jake was recording everything on his phone to share with his engineering classmates. 3 years ago, I sat alone at my college graduation, feeling like the most forgotten person in the world. Today, I stand here preparing for humanity's greatest adventure, surrounded by people who believe in the power of dreams and the importance of supporting each other's aspirations. I told them about the letter I had found in my diploma holder, about the family crisis that forced us to confront years of dysfunctional patterns, about the FBI investigation that turned a personal betrayal into a national security victory. But the most important lesson I learned wasn't about engineering or space exploration, I said. It was about the difference between being alone and being independent. Being alone means you lack support. Being independent means you're strong enough to succeed without it, but wise enough to build it when the opportunity arises. I looked directly at my family in the front row. My family let me down when I needed them most, but instead of letting that betrayal define our relationships, we used it as an opportunity to build something better. They learned to value what they had instead of chasing what they thought they wanted. I learned to demand the respect I deserved while still offering the support they needed. The audience was completely silent, hanging on every word. Space exploration requires the same principles. We can't depend on perfect conditions or guaranteed outcomes. We have to be prepared for equipment failures, communication breakdowns, and unexpected crises. But we also have to trust our team members, support each other's expertise, and work together toward a common goal that's bigger than any individual achievement. I paused, thinking about Marcus and the path that had led from his betrayal to this moment. Someone once tried to steal my future by exploiting my family's weaknesses. Instead, he ended up giving me a better future by forcing us to address those weaknesses. The Mars mission exists because we refused to let betrayal make us bitter. We chose to let it make us stronger. After the ceremony, my family gathered around the spacecraft model for pictures. Emma held up her baby daughter so she could touch the Mars rover replica. Someday, Aunt Hamilton is going to Mars, Emma whispered to her daughter. And you're going to grow up in a world where women can be engineers and astronauts and anything else they want to be. Jake was already making plans. Hamilton, by the time you get back from Mars, you'll have my PhD in propulsion systems. Maybe I can work on the next mission. Jake, I'm counting on it, I said. We're going to need someone we trust to design the engines for permanent Mars colonization. Dad pulled me aside for a private conversation. Son, I want you to know that your mother and I talk about your graduation day at least once a week. Not because we're still beating ourselves up about it, but because we never want to forget the lesson we learned. What lesson is that, Dad? That the people we love most are often the ones we take for granted most. You were always there when we needed help, so we assumed you always would be. We forgot that being there for someone means showing up for their victories, not just their crises. Mom joined our conversation, overhearing Dad's last comment. Hamilton, we've started a tradition in honor of you, she said. Every year, on your graduation day, we have a family meeting where everyone talks about their dreams and goals. Then we figure out how to support each other in achieving them. This year, Jake told us he wants to work for NASA. Dad continued. Emma said she wants to open her own practice, helping children who have been victims of manipulation and abuse. And your mother and I decided we want to start a scholarship fund for first-generation college students studying engineering. We're calling it the Hamilton Morrison Foundation for Educational Excellence, Mom added. We've already raised $30,000 from people in our community who were inspired by your story. I was speechless. My family had taken the lessons from our crisis and turned them into a legacy of supporting other people's educational dreams. That evening, we had dinner at a restaurant overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. As the sun set over the water, I thought about the journey that had brought us all to this moment. You know, I said to everyone at the table, Marcus taught us something valuable, even though he didn't mean to. What's that? Emma asked. He showed us that the most dangerous people are the ones who see others as tools instead of human beings. But the most powerful people are the ones who see everyone's potential and work to help them achieve it. Jake raised his glass of soda. To Hamilton, who turned the worst family day ever into the best family story ever. To all of us, I corrected, for learning that supporting each other's dreams makes everyone stronger. As we clinked glasses together, I realized that the loneliest moment of my life had led to the richest relationships I had ever experienced. The family that had once taken me for granted now celebrated my achievements as their own. The career that had almost been derailed by betrayal had become more successful than I had ever dared to hope. In 18 months, I would be traveling to Mars with 5 other astronauts, carrying the hopes and dreams of humanity to another world. But the greatest adventure had been right here on Earth. Learning that love isn't something you can take for granted, success isn't something you achieve alone, and forgiveness isn't something you give to others as much as something you give to yourself. The letter in my diploma holder had changed everything. Not because it offered me a job, but because it gave me the courage to demand better from the people I loved and to become someone worthy of their best efforts in return. Sometimes the most important discoveries happen not in space, but in the space between people who are brave enough to tell the truth and strong enough to change. So let me ask you something. Has there been a moment in your life when the people closest to you let you down, but that disappointment ended up leading you to something better? How did you find the strength to forgive while still demanding the respect you deserved? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below because I think we all learn from each other's experiences with family, betrayal, and the courage to build something better from the broken pieces. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button to let me know. And don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories about overcoming adversity and finding your true potential. Share this video with anyone who might need to hear that being undervalued by others doesn't diminish your worth. It just means you haven't found your true tribe yet. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember, the best revenge against people who don't believe in you is becoming someone they can't help but admire. Keep reaching for your dreams, even when you have to reach alone, because the right people will always find their way to you when you're brave enough to shine your light.